Welcome to Success at Scale, the podcast that covers business stories from experienced entrepreneurs and startup founders on how to translate business ideas into business results. I'm your host, Greg Stein, and today we're going to talk with Louis Schenk, who's the founder and director of Boost Media Agency. Louis is helping brands amplify their message, reach more people, and build their authority through public relations, digital media, and so much more. He is a contributor at Entrepreneur Media, too. So, Louis, thank you so much for joining us today. Tell us more about you.
Greg, thank you so much for having me, man. I am super excited to dive right in. So, yeah, I guess my story is a little unconventional to most. So, to give you the high-level summary, basically, I grew up in the capital of Australia called Canberra. Went to go to university. After 2 weeks, I decided I did not want to go to university and study what I was studying. So I literally packed up and went to college in the US and got myself a golf scholarship over there. I was there for about 3 years where I really grew as a person a lot. Growing up super shy and introverted, but pushing myself out of my comfort zone and going to, a small town in Kansas of all places was like way out of my comfort zone. So that was where my journey of growth kind of started. And I think that whole experience is like instrumental into where I'm at today. I did that for 2.5 years, finished my degree back in Australia. Then I got into business and started an events company, which is still a nationwide events company here in Australia. For the last 2.5 years, been honed in on Boost Media Agency, working hard, putting in the reps to really help our clients grow and really to position themselves as like an elite personal brand. So obviously, the online world is very saturated. And so we look for ways that we can help our clients cut through the noise and really become one of those leading public figures. So there's a high level for you.
Well, that's awesome, man. We have a lot to talk about today. So first off, what is Boost Media Agency? Like, give us the high level on Boost Media Agency with a little more detail.
Yeah, good question. So we started out as like a public relations company. So we're working with our clients to pretty much get them featured into like the media, news, publications like Forbes, Entrepreneur, places like that. I've really evolved the company over the last, 8 to 10 months now since I've started working with my most recent mentor and really innovating to deliver more and to really keep up with the latest trends because things move so quickly. Like, when I started all these changes a year ago, we were just doing, basic social media content, like graphics and stuff as well. But now we're just focusing on short form video because that's what's working right now in terms of reach. You can post a video on TikTok and get 100,000 views with 0 followers, right?
Right.
There's not many things in the world that do that. So Reels, TikToks, YouTube Shorts, super powerful. Obviously, views aren't everything. They are a vanity metric, but at the same time, as Grant Cardone says, money follows attention, right? So the more attention you can get, ultimately, the more people you can impact and the more money you can make. So the direction that I'm shifting the company, I really want to become synonymous with personal branding and one of the top in the world. So that's not going to look the same right now as it might in 2 years. So for the moment, I would say we are PR and personal branding, but that's going to continue to evolve.
Pretty darn cool, man. It sounds like you've got your fingers in a lot of different businesses too, right? I mean, in terms of the types of businesses that you work with, they're probably pretty varied in multiple verticals, right?
Yeah, they really are. Like for so long, I was following conventional advice, which is like niche down, find your niche. But what I found is like what we do is so industry agnostic and we have so many relationships across the board that there's literally no like person that we can't help, right? I know that sounds like very generic and some people hate me for saying that, but like we work with humans, right? We work with personal brands. Anyone who is like a business owner, founder of a company, coach, they can all, and they will all benefit from building a personal brand, right? So yeah, we have worked with clients in over 50 different industries, from mortgage brokers, coaches, law firms, like literally you name it, we've probably done it.
Wow, that's badass, man. Now, what about Entrepreneur Media? What's your contribution there? How'd you get involved with that?
Yeah, so they have a few different programs in terms of, public relations, different, thought leaders to be able to contribute to their platform. So to be honest, I have been so busy that I haven't even written anything for about 2 months, I would say. So Yeah, I like to kind of just share insights on certain topics, interview certain people. So people who are at very high levels, like, one of them was a guy who grew to 1 million followers on TikTok in a year. I really wanted to pick his brain and share that with people. So he basically laid out his framework for that. There's a guy who runs one of the biggest influencer marketing agencies in the world, and he was sharing insights on how they've been able to scale these massive companies, brands. Like they work with, Fortune 500 companies and like these massive companies to actually scale their social media through short form video ads. So yeah, to answer the question, I write on anything that's relevant to what I love and what we do.
Sounds fantastic. Now let's talk about your upbringing. You said you kind of didn't stay with college at first, but then you found a different path, and then you kind of melded all of this with sports as well. You mentioned golf. So tell us more like about the way that all went down, and then how that kind of influenced your mindset in the world of business today.
Yeah, I love that. So to go more granular on what I touched on at the start. So yeah, like growing up, to be honest, I was so shy and introverted. Like my 15-year-old self would look at me now and be like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're actually doing that." Right.
Right.
So that all started with getting out of my comfort zone, going to America. I knew no one, made some really great friends there who were the polar opposite to me in the sense of like their outgoingness and extrovert, and it just rubbed off on me. And so after 2.5 years there, I would say that I was like a pretty different person. And then I didn't end up finishing my 4-year degree in America. Long story, but yeah, it didn't work out at the second school. So I came back to Melbourne, which is one of the biggest cities in Australia. Was finishing my degree there, and I was just like, I hated school. I hated university. I just, every day I'm there, I'm like, this is not for me. Like, I'm not meant to be here. Like, not saying this cliche thing, like I'm better than these people, but I just knew intuitively, like, man, like this is not for me. And this is not what I want to do. So that actually led me to pick up my first book that I read since Harry Potter in about grade 6. And it was a book called Positivity by Barbara Fredrickson. And, it was sitting on my dad's bookshelf, and I was like, you know what? I could use more positivity. I wasn't like a super negative person, but at golf, I had, some negative self-talk, let's say. I wouldn't give myself much credit. And I read the book, and like, it was honestly fascinating. The case studies and the science behind actual like positive thinking. It's not this like woo-woo, like think I'm going to get a Lamborghini. It's like, if you literally talk to yourself in a certain way, it elicits, a cellular response that is far different to if you're like, oh, I'm angry, I'm mad, it was crazy to me. And so that's what started like my personal development journey. And I was like hooked after that. I was like, God, if I apply this to golf, like imagine the things I can do. My results at golf skyrocketed, right? Started playing better than ever. And then for 2 years straight, I was like so not motivated, but I was just like so disciplined. I was like getting up at 5. Well, I still get up at 5, but get up at 5 a.m., work out, be at the golf course from like 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., come home, have dinner, go back to the driving range. So like I was putting in so much more work than anyone that I knew, which got me a lot of really good results in the short term. But after 2 years of doing that, I really, really burnt out. And I resented the game so much. I remember the exact moment on this golf course. I was telling my buddy about this the other day. I was at the second hole at the Dunes Golf Club, and I was like, I'm walking up to the green, and you're looking over these like huge paddocks. And I was like, man, like this is not what I want to do. Like in reality, the next 4 or 5 years of my life would have been, like most professional golfers starting out, like struggling to make, a couple bucks and like working in a pro shop selling Mars bars in order to, fund their golfing ventures. And I was like, this is not what I want to do. So yeah, I was very fortunate as well at the time that through sheer luck or sheer, divine timing, I was actually running an events company for these 2 guys. I met them on Facebook. I started working their events, and then they started another business and said, hey man, you've got a great initiative. You're, a great guy. Like we'd love for you to, run this business for us while we start this next one. Me being growth minded, I was like, sure, bring it on. Right. So I got so much insight into running a business from actually, believe it or not, running a business. Right. So then when I went to start my own events company, it was like, cool, I know exactly what to do. And it was like a cinch. And then having all those skills then allowed me to scale Bruce Media Agency really, really quickly. Once I got connected with the right people, had some insight on, working for another company in that space as well, very short term. Then yeah, I had the skill set to pretty much get it up and running, and yeah, since evolved it from there. So that's a little bit of insight into all that.
Well, I love that, right? So in my world, obviously, my background is my background. It's all about, music and drums and percussion, and the way I bring, creativity to the world of business, right? And quite frankly, that's what Triple G Ventures is all about, right? At this point, we really think from a creative mindset and look at the world of business through the lens of creativity, which allows us to see things differently than most. And so it sounds like to me, while your world is golf and sports and all of this, it also sounds like that's the kind of mindset that you use the word discipline earlier. It sounds to me like that's very much the mindset that you bring to your work every day of the week, right?
Yeah, correct. Like, I was never a really, really disciplined person, but like playing golf like that taught me so much. And like, 2 years of it pretty well ingrained it into me. I was like, this is what it takes. And, it was funny because when I kind of, was starting that journey of like, wanting to really go pro and stuff, like I was like, 2-3 weeks of like really hard practice and my game will be at like an elite level. God, how delirious was I to think that. Right. And I think it's the same with a lot of people in business. And like, a lot of marketers will sell the dream of like, oh, it's easy, like get clients with ease and grow your business with ease. Like, it can be easy, but the reality is that like 99% of the time it's hard and you have to do more than you think you're going to have to do, right?
I don't know about you, but I find nothing's easy. Nothing's easy. Even when they tell you it's easy, it's never easy, right? If it is easy, there's something wrong or there's something under the hood there. It's almost the opposite of what they sell you.
Correct. If it's too good to be true, then it's probably too good to be true.
It's got to be, right?
That's just, I mean, that's just how some people market.
You ever have like a project you're working on with somebody? They're like, oh yeah, it's easy. We just have to do X, right? Let's just go hire someone. I hear these kind of things all the time and I'm thinking to myself, it's never that easy. You're adding a new person. You have to train them. You have to onboard them. Once you get them in, you got to get them up to speed on everything that's going on. And then what, right? And then a personality conflict or something else happens. And, it just never works the way you think it's going to work, right?
Correct. And I think that's like part of the fun. But, if you zoom out and like from a bird's eye view, business is really simple. You have an idea, you find product market fit, you get customers, you hire more employees, and you just kind of repeat that, right?
Well said.
But on a micro level, geez, it's like hiring someone. Cool. Where do I find them? How do I train them? Are they skilled? What do I need to teach them? Like, oh, they messed up. How do we fix it? It's very simple at a bird's eye view, but like on a granular day-to-day level, like it's way more complex. But it's kind of fun, you learn different things and like,
yeah.
You realize
I think it's like the golf. It's the golf analogy again. It's the same kind of thing.
Correct. So yeah, I think anyone who has a background in sport or music or whatever that may be at a high level, I think you just learn so many things that are directly transferable to business. Right? It's just another game. It's just another sport. It's like learning an instrument. Right? You suck at the start, and then you put in the work every day, and then 12 months later, you're like, wow, I've actually come a long way.
Right. Exactly. But the secret is that hard work. It is that discipline. And I love what you said earlier about the power of positive thinking, because, there is so much, especially now, right? Because we're surrounded by negativity, right? There's been this coronavirus pandemic, with all sorts of bad things going on there. There's economic downturn. There's bad things going on there. There's, all sorts of things in the environment. I mean, it just goes on and on and on, right? And if you allow that voice inside, man, it's going to be tough to get out of bed in the morning, right? But if you adopt a positive attitude, it seems like that's definitely helpful. Has that been your experience?
Yeah, definitely. It's just like controlling the inputs, right? Like a computer, the input determines the output. If I'm consuming all that garbage, I'm probably going to be thinking garbage and act garbage, but I cut out all that stuff. Like I have a TV in the house, but we don't have it connected to any television stations. Like if we're going to watch something, we have a cable we plug into the laptop and watch something on Netflix, right? Which is very rare in that case. But point being 100%, like the world is fueled by negativity because, at the highest levels, the news and media, they know that that's what generates clicks, right? Oh, cat gets rescued from tree. Like, sure, it's feel good, but, crazy war, people dying, people go, oh my God, like fear sells, right? It's true. But if you let it affect you, you got to stand guard at the door of your mind. right?
Yeah.
Anything that comes in, you've got to be like, okay, does this make sense? Is this, am I looking at this objectively? And then make your own decision versus letting someone make the decision for you.
It makes sense. So now let's talk about leadership, and let's talk about how you position yourself as a thought leader in the industry. Let's talk about how you approach leadership in your business, and also what kind of practical advice you would give to our listeners right now in terms of leadership and things that they can do to take away from this.
Yeah, good question. So I learned a lot about leadership in the past, 3 months. So the kind of conversation started with my mentor. So I've been working with him for nearly like 8 to 10, maybe close to 10 months now. I can't keep track, but point being, he's, built and run sales teams at the highest levels for like 10 years. So he knows a lot about leadership. And it wasn't even like a conversation that I expected to have, but I was explaining all this stuff and he's like, dude, like you've kind of ruined your culture a little bit. Like you need to, we need to work on some leadership stuff. And so that's when I kind of realized that like I am, I set the culture for the whole company. It's not like I can't just say to my team, hey, go and do this, and then them just expect to do it without me, one, leading by example, two, and like giving that culture of like keeping each other accountable. I'm a very empathetic person. And so if someone doesn't meet a target, for example, I'm like, oh, it's okay, no problem. Like, which it's good and bad, right? Good from you make them feel good, but at the same time bad because you're actually, ruining the progress that you could be making in the business. So just learning how to keep people accountable better, setting better KPIs. And I've really been diving deep into OKRs, so like objectives and key results. Are you familiar with that?
I am very much.
Yeah.
So yes.
Yeah. So I've always been a very shoot from the hip, like take action, make it happen, figure it out. But then it's like, okay, you get to a certain point, it's like, where are we all going? Right? Like, how can we get the team all enrolled in? This is exactly where we want to go. So yeah, I even booked a call last night with the guy who founded this big OKR software company, and it was really interesting to pick his brain about it because I kind of struggled to grasp the concept, but yeah, obviously learning from someone who knows it pretty well helped a lot. So yeah, to answer that part of the question, definitely starting with myself and leading by example would be the biggest one.
Well, I think, the OKR thing is so interesting to me because, far too often, I think, people, so I had a executive coach that I worked with, and I absolutely love this guy. And he talked to me about be, do, have. And he says, what do you want to be? And I started listing out all these things that I wanted to have. And I actually at that time got it way backwards, right? And he said, no, what do you want to be? Right? Like, what's the thing that you're going to do that's bigger than you? Right? And then what are you going to do to get there? And what are you going to have at the end? Be, do, have. And that resonated with me so much. It carried through in kind of everything I do. And I look at it and I say, hold on a second, with OKRs, you're now focusing on, not just what you're trying to do, but what are you really going to have at the end of it? Right? Because far too often we're like, talking, we do it in reverse, and so the OKR structure really, gets you to a place where it's like, it kind of is the same thing. What do you want to be? What are you going to do to get there? And what are you going to have at the end? To me, it just kind of resonates and makes sense. So
Correct. It's almost like future pacing in that regard too, right? Like,
absolutely.
what you want to be, and then you start acting like what you want to be, or, where you want to be.
Exactly right. So let's talk about PR. PR has changed so much. And you're talking about TikTok videos. I think that's a great analogy. But like when you talk about building a personal brand, what's involved in that these days? And what's the future of this industry?
Yeah, good question. So I think at the highest level, like I always just look at what the biggest people are doing. Like great example would be like a Gary Vee, right? Or like Grant Cardone, Jenna Kutcher, Lewis Howes, all these people, like, they really tick three massive major boxes in my eyes, right? So that's social media, right? They're everywhere, posting a ton of content. Two is like podcasts and media interviews. So, they'd be on, they would have too many podcast requests to count. But point being, like they are reaching so many people in those two ways. And then the third is like the public relations side of things, like the media outlets talking about them, like on a really simple level, like you search them up anywhere and you can tell instantly, right? Wow, this person's like massive, they're really good. Like, there's a lot of people who can shortcut that by just modeling them, right? So you look at what the biggest people are doing, you model that, and then you can really, really like build a brand to a much higher level versus taking, the slow route of maybe one day making $1 million or 10 million and then, starting to build the brand.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I guess, where do you see this industry going though? Like, right now it's such a funny thing. Like PR used to be, a magazine, you'd have to get placements in a magazine or a television show or whatever. But, now it really is so much more about, social media and FOMO in a bigger way. Where do you see this going? Right? Like, yeah.
Yeah, I don't see it changing massively, like on a macro level, but on a micro level, I think the strategies will change. There's always going to be new algorithm changes and new things working. Like, God forbid if Google were to shut down, like, what's going to happen then, right?
Right.
Like, so I don't have a clear answer on that. I just think it's going to continue going the way where people are going to want to keep getting attention and building their brands because, like we said before, money follows attention. So
yes.
I used to kind of think, it's better to hide in the shadows and create stuff and build, and then, people see you win. But I think nowadays, like, it does you more harm than good because you could build a personal brand, for yourself at Triple G Ventures. If you built a brand where, you had, let's say, Elon Musk status, you could just go and start anything and you'd have investors like jumping at I want to invest in Elon, right? They invest in you, not just the product, right?
Right.
So I think it's just going to continue. I don't see it slowing down, but the micro strategies might change.
Awesome. What do you think, if there's a small business that's out there that's listening to this podcast right now, and they're thinking about PR and all of this, how should they be planning for their success? What advice would you give them?
Yeah, I would just start by looking at like what makes them unique. Like, what are the things that make their story newsworthy? So, it might be like a hardship as a child that, shaped you into the person today. Like, to use myself as an example, like, I think one of my unique things is that, like, I was an aspiring professional golfer, competed at a pretty high level, went to college in America. Like, everyone has a really great story to share, and it's about encapsulating that. Like, a lot of publications and media outlets, they just look at numbers, right? Like, I've had some incredible client stories, but it's like, nah, the number's just not big enough, right? So it's very vain, a lot of it. But yeah, just thinking about what makes you unique, the key messages, and to kind of, if a small business or someone was listening to this, I always like to like paint the picture of an example. Like, why do all these people tend to flock to like one person or one thing? Like, a lot of it comes down to social proof. So really basic example. So let's say you have two competitors, competitor A, competitor B. They both offer the same product and service, same price point, right? So competitor A, you search them up online, right? Wow, first page of Google, they got a Forbes feature. Oh, look at all these podcasts. Cool, you click on that. Look at their social media. It's branded really aesthetically, right? Cool. Let's check out competitor B. You look them up. Oh, shit, where are they? Oh, maybe like, okay, I think this might be their website, like the fifth one down, but you're not sure, right? Can't find anything else. You see their Facebook page might not have been updated in like 4 or 5 years. You're like, well, I'm probably just going to go with competitor A, right? Same product, same price point, right? Because they have all the social proof there. So it's just like, it's a psychological bias that's one of the most powerful in the world. So, you're either leveraging it or your competitor's leveraging it. So even if you're like a restaurant, right? Like if you're a restaurant, you want to be getting in these magazines and publications, putting them on your door, right? So people walk past, it's like, top rated restaurant in this street. Or I've even seen clothing shops that they have like 3 or 4 different newspaper cutouts where they've been featured literally plastered on the front door. I'm like, God, that's genius, because they just know that people go where other people go. And when they have that social proof, it makes it like way less risky in people's minds, right?
No doubt. So what's next for Boost Media Agency? Where do you guys go from here?
Yeah, good question. So like the 3 main verticals that we've focused on are, social media, podcasting, PR and media. The next, I want to move into like, TV, keynotes. So like I kind of have this visional plan for the next stage of what we offer, and kind of working towards attracting like those really, really high-end clients, so that we basically whatever they need to create like the most elite brand, that's what we do for them. So I think the TV and getting keynotes booked as well will be massive.
Outstanding. So, all right, Louis, last question. Where can listeners find you and your company online?
Yeah, the best place is probably just my personal Instagram. That's where we're most active. So at Louis Schenk, or one word. But I would love to connect. I've got a ton of great free media resources. So if anyone is in need of any of that, just literally send me a DM and I'll send them over.
Awesome. Well, Louis, thank you so much for joining us at Success at Scale with Triple G Ventures. For anybody that's listening, please like, share, subscribe, all that social media good stuff that Louis talked about. Help us spread the word. We're out there to help you along the way. And thank you again for listening. Until we see you next time, peace.